The gunshot echoed through the abandoned loading dock before Amara Okonkwo even saw the body. She'd been driving through freezing Detroit rain for 11 hours straight, her ancient Honda's heater barely functioning, fingers numb on the steering wheel. The delivery app had sent her to this desolate industrial port at 2 a.m, promising a $50 tip for a package pickup that made no sense. But $50 meant groceries for the week, meant keeping the lights on in her shoebox apartment for another month. Then she heard it. Not the gunshot that had already faded into the rain, the crying, babies crying. Amara killed the engine, her heart hammering against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to drive away, to pretend she'd never received this delivery request, to go home and forget this night ever happened. But the crying continued, desperate and afraid, and she thought of her father's last words 6 months ago as he lay dying in her arms, his hand gripping hers with fading strength. Don't let them fall, NWAM. Whatever happens, catch them. She'd failed him, failed to recognize the signs of his stroke, failed to get him help in time, failed at everything that mattered. The nursing degree she'd abandoned, the career she'd never started, the life she'd never built. But she could do this. She could help whoever was crying in the darkness. Amara grabbed the flashlight from her glove compartment and stepped into the rain. The cold hit her like a physical blow, November in Detroit showing no mercy. Her sneakers splashed through puddles as she approached the loading dock. Following the sound of infant screams that cut through the storm, that's when she saw him, a man slumped against a concrete pillar, rain streaming down his face, clutching 2 infant car carriers with a desperation that transcended pain. Even in the darkness, even bleeding and broken, he was striking. Sharp cheekbones, intense dark eyes that tracked her movement despite obvious agony, and a black turtleneck soaked through with rain and blood. But it was his neck that caught her attention. Intricate tattoos, Korean characters mixed with geometric patterns, visible even in the dim light. And the gun. A silver pistol pointed directly at her chest. Leave. His voice was rough, accented, each word costing him effort. Leave or die. Choose now. The babies screamed louder, their cries echoing off the abandoned warehouses. Amara raised her hands slowly, her medical training kicking in despite her terror. She could see the blood now, dark against his shoulder, spreading across his chest. Gunshot wound, left side, probably through and through based on the exit wound she could glimpse. He was losing blood fast. "I'm not armed," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I'm just a delivery driver. The app sent me here." No coincidence. He coughed and blood flecked his lips. Beautiful lips, she noticed absurdly, even as he threatened her life. They hacked the app, led you here. You're bait. Bait for what? For me to trust you. His hand shook, the gun wavering. For me to let my guard down. But I won't. Take your car and go. Forget you saw anything. Live your life. One of the babies let out a particularly desperate wail, and something broke inside Amara. She'd failed her father, failed herself, failed at everything she'd ever attempted. But she would not fail these children. "I'm not leaving them," she said, and took a step forward. The gun tracked her movement. "I will shoot you." "No, you won't." She took another step. Her eyes never leaving his, because if you shoot me, you alert whoever's hunting you to your exact location, because you're too weak to carry those babies anywhere safe, and because you know I'm your only chance of survival. Something flickered in his dark eyes. Respect, maybe, or desperation. The gun lowered an inch. "You have medical training." It wasn't a question. 3 years of nursing school before I dropped out. Amara moved closer, slowly, like approaching a wounded animal. "I can help you." Hospital means they die. His voice was fading now, consciousness slipping. "Police means they die. You understand? No authorities. No one can know. Who are you? Dead man if you don't help. His eyes rolled back, and the gun slipped from his fingers, clattering against the concrete. Please, the children, don't let them fall. The words hit Amara like an electric shock, the same words her father had spoken, the universe giving her a second chance she didn't deserve. She lunged forward as he collapsed, catching his weight against her shoulder. He was heavier than he looked, solid muscle beneath the blood-soaked clothes. Up close, she could see more tattoos peeking out from his collar, intricate and deliberate. Not random art. These meant something. The babies were still screaming, their faces red with distress inside the carriers. Twins, maybe 6 or 7 months old. One boy, one girl, both with delicate Asian features and thick black hair plastered to their heads from the rain. Okay, Amara said aloud, to herself, to the babies, to God if he was listening. Okay, we can do this. She checked the man's pulse, thready but present, breathing shallow but steady. The bullet had gone through his shoulder, missing the subclavian artery by centimetres. Lucky, or maybe he'd been shot by someone with terrible aim. Either way, he'd live if she could stop the bleeding and prevent infection. She grabbed one carrier with her left hand, looped her right arm under the man's shoulders, and half dragged him toward her van. He was taller than her, probably 6 feet to her 5'7", and every step sent pain shooting through her back. But she'd spent years lifting patients during her nursing rotations. Muscle memory took over. The van's side door slid open with a rusty screech. She loaded the babies first, securing the carriers with bungee cords, then wrestled the unconscious man into the back seat. He groaned as she positioned him, his head lolling against her shoulder. This close, she could smell blood and gunpowder and something else. Expensive cologne, sandalwood and bergamot. Who was this man? Amara jumped into the driver's seat and started the engine. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline flooding her system. She'd just aided and abetted God knows what kind of criminal. Kidnapped 2 babies. Committed at least a dozen felonies, but as she pulled away from the loading dock, the baby's cries finally quieting in the warmth of the van, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months: purpose. The drive to her apartment normally took 30 minutes. She made it in 15, running 2 red lights and ignoring every speed limit. The man in her back seat groaned occasionally, but didn't regain consciousness. The babies had fallen into an exhausted sleep, their tiny chests rising and falling with each breath. Amara lived in Midtown Detroit, in a converted warehouse that had been chopped into 20 studio apartments, each one barely 300 square feet. She parked in the back alley, checking for witnesses. 2:30 in the morning on a Tuesday. The streets were empty except for a homeless man sleeping in a doorway 3 buildings down. Getting the man upstairs was harder than getting him into the van. He was dead weight now, completely unconscious, and her apartment was on the 3rd floor with no elevator. She considered leaving him in the van and bringing the babies up first, but something told her that separation was dangerous. They needed to stay together. So she did it the hard way. Carrier in left hand, man's arm over her shoulders, carrier in right hand. Up the stairs, one agonizing step at a time, her legs burning, her breath coming in gasps. By the time she reached her door, her vision was swimming. Inside, she laid him on her bed, the only real furniture in the apartment besides a futon and a folding table. She set the carriers on the floor, then ran to her bathroom for her first aid kit. She kept it stocked even after dropping out of school, unable to completely let go of that part of herself. The man's turtleneck was soaked through. Amara grabbed scissors and cut it away, revealing the full extent of the tattoos. They covered his entire torso, his arms, his back. Korean characters flowing into geometric patterns, numbers hidden within designs, coordinates embedded in what looked like traditional art, and his face, even unconscious and pale from blood loss, was arresting. Sharp jaw, high cheekbones, full lips. He couldn't be older than mid-30s, she guessed, young to have so many secrets carved into his skin. The gunshot wound was worse than she'd thought. The bullet had entered his left shoulder and exited through his back, tearing through muscle but miraculously missing bone. She packed the wounds with gauze, applied pressure, started an IV line with the supplies she'd hoarded from her hospital rotations, lactated Ringer's solution to replace the blood volume he'd lost. She hung the bag from her closet door handle, the fluid dripping steadily into his vein. He needed blood. He needed a hospital. But he'd been clear. No hospitals, no police. These children would die if she broke that rule. She had to trust it, had to trust him. As she worked, cleaning the wound, checking for debris, stitching the entry and exit points with trembling fingers, Amara felt herself slipping back into the person she used to be, the nursing student who'd been top of her class, the daughter her father had been proud of, the woman who saved lives instead of delivering groceries for tips. It took an hour to stabilize him. By the time she finished, her hands were covered in blood, her clothes ruined, her body shaking with exhaustion, but his pulse was stronger, his breathing deeper. He'd live. That's when the babies started crying again. Amara looked at the carriers, panic rising. She had no idea how to care for infants. Her pediatric rotation had been the one she'd skipped, too afraid of hurting something so small and vulnerable. But these babies needed her. Now. She knelt beside the carriers, unstrapping them with clumsy fingers. The girl had delicate features, rosebud lips, and thick eyelashes. The boy was stockier, with a serious expression even while crying. Both wore expensive clothes, designer brands she recognized from window shopping she could never afford. "Hey," she whispered, lifting the girl out first. "Hey, it's okay. You're safe now." The baby's crying intensified, her face scrunching with distress. Amara bounced her gently, the way she'd seen mothers do, but it only made things worse. The boy joined in, their dual screams filling her tiny apartment. "Come on," Amara pleaded. "What do you need? Food? Diaper change? Both?" She checked the diaper, soaked through. Of course! She had no diapers, no formula, no bottles, no anything a baby might need. What had she been thinking, bringing them here? But then she remembered the carriers themselves. She set the girl back down gently and examined the equipment. High-end car seats, the kind that cost more than her monthly rent. And built into the base of each one was a hidden compartment. Amara popped the first latch. Inside was a supply kit that would make any parent jealous. Formula, bottles, diapers, wipes, even a change of clothes. Everything she needed. Someone had prepared for this. Someone had known these babies might need to survive on their own. She changed both diapers, fumbling with the tabs, getting baby powder everywhere. Then she prepared bottles of formula, following the instructions on the container, her nursing training helping her calculate the right amounts for their age and weight. 6 months old, she guessed, maybe 7, old enough for formula, not quite ready for solid food. The babies latched onto the bottles with desperate hunger, their cries finally, blessedly, stopping. Amara sank onto her futon, holding both of them awkwardly, one in each arm, and felt tears streaming down her face. What had she done? What had she gotten herself into? She looked at the man on her bed, his chest rising and falling steadily now, the IV drip keeping him hydrated. The tattoos covering his skin seemed to shift in the lamplight, symbols and numbers forming patterns she couldn't quite decipher. "Who are you?" she whispered. As if in answer, his eyes fluttered open, dark eyes, alert despite the pain, finding her across the room. He tried to sit up, gasped, fell back against the pillows. "The children," he rasped. "Are they safe?" "They're fine. Fed, changed, sleeping." Amara nodded toward the babies in her arms. "Who are they? Who are you? Did you call anyone?" "No." "Police? Hospital? Friends?" "No one. You said they'd die if I did." Something in his expression softened. You saved us. You're not saved yet. You need blood, antibiotics, proper medical care. I did what I could, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not even a nurse. I'm a dropout who delivers food for a living. You're a Yunin. He pronounced it slowly, carefully. Yunin, a lifesaver. In my world, that means something. What world is that? He studied her for a long moment, seeming to weigh how much to tell her. The kind of world where people get shot for knowing too much. Are you sure you want answers? I'm in this now. I carried you up 3 flights of stairs. I stitched your wounds. I fed your children. So yes, I want answers. Not my children. Not both. He coughed, and Amara stood quickly, setting the babies in their carriers before rushing to his side. The girl is mine, Sua. Her mother died giving birth. And the boy? My blood brother's son, Daniel. His father, Jae-sung, died protecting us 3 months ago. I swore I would raise Daniel as my own. Protecting you from what? From the people who shot me tonight. He tried to sit up again, and this time Amara helped him, propping pillows behind his back. From my own organization. I lead a syndicate, the Hwarang. We traffic in information, in data, in secrets that powerful people pay to keep hidden. Amara felt her blood run cold. You're a criminal. I prefer information broker. A ghost of a smile crossed his lips. But yes, a criminal. And tonight, my own people betrayed me. My security detail, men I've known for years, they sold me out to a faction that wants to take control. Why? He tapped his chest, indicating the tattoos. Because of these, every symbol, every character, every number you see on my skin is encrypted data. Coordinates to data vaults, passwords to accounts, blackmail material on dozens of powerful people. My body is a living ledger worth $4 billion. That's insane. That's genius. No one can steal this information without stealing me. No one can hack it, crack it, or copy it. It's the ultimate security. Or it was, until my own people decided I was worth more dead than alive. They want your skin. The realization made Amara's stomach turn. They want me alive, preferably, but my skin would work too. Either way, they get access to everything. He looked at her intently, and even injured and exhausted, his gaze was penetrating. Which means you're in danger now too. They'll trace you. The delivery app you used, it was hacked. They knew you'd be there. They probably hoped I'd kill you, or that you'd call the police. Either way, it would flush me out. So, what do? You leave. Now. Take the cash in the car seat compartments. $5,000. Start a new life somewhere else. Forget you ever saw me. And the babies. His jaw clenched. I'll find a way. You can barely sit up. You've lost 1/3 of your blood volume. You need at least 3 days of bed rest before you can even walk, and that's if infection doesn't set in. How exactly are you going to find a way? He said nothing, but she could see the desperation in his eyes, the fear. Not for himself, she realized, for the children. I'll stay, Amara said, for now, until you're strong enough to move, but then I'm out. Understood? Why? Why would you risk your life for strangers? She thought of her father, of his last words, of the guilt that had been eating her alive for 6 months. Because someone once told me not to let them fall, she said quietly, and I failed him. I won't fail again. If you're enjoying this story so far, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel. We've got more incredible stories coming your way, and your support means everything to us. The man studied her for a long moment, then nodded. My name is Kang Ji-ho, and I owe you my life. Amara Okonkwo. Nigerian American. My parents immigrated in the 90s. My dad died 6 months ago. My mum went back to Lagos after. I stayed. She didn't know why she was telling him this. Maybe because he'd been honest with her. Maybe because she needed to remind herself she was a person, not just a pawn in whatever dangerous game she'd stumbled into. I'm sorry about your father. Jiho's voice was sincere. The bond between father and child, it's sacred. That's why I must protect Su'ar and Daniel, no matter the cost. Tell me about the people hunting you. If I'm going to help, I need to know what we're up against. Jiho closed his eyes, gathering his strength. The Hwarang Syndicate has existed for 30 years. We started in Seoul, expanded to Los Angeles, then to New York and Detroit. We deal in corporate espionage, political blackmail, identity protection. Clean work, mostly. No drugs, no human trafficking, no unnecessary violence. We have rules. Rules you're breaking by telling me this. The rules are already broken. My wife, Mi-sun, supposedly died 18 months ago, giving birth to Su'ar. But I've recently learned that was a lie. She's alive, and she's the one orchestrating this coup. She wants the tattoos, wants control of the organization, and she's willing to kill her own daughter to get it. Amara felt sick. What kind of mother would do that? The kind who never wanted to be a mother. Mi-sun and I, our marriage was strategic. Two powerful families uniting. I didn't love her, and she didn't love me. But I thought we had an understanding. I thought she cared about the organization, about honor, about the code we live by. He opened his eyes, and they were hard now. Cold. I was wrong. So your own wife faked her death, waited over a year. And then what? Convinced your security detail to betray you? She's been positioning herself with the council, the 12 men who govern the Hwarang, old traditionalists who think I'm too soft, too Western, too willing to change the old ways. They see an opportunity to remove me and install someone more pliable, someone like Mi-sun. But you have the tattoos, the information, which is why they need me alive long enough to extract it. The encryption is complex. It requires specific keys, specific sequences. If they kill me outright, they risk losing everything. But if they capture me, torture me, they can make me talk. He looked at the babies sleeping peacefully in their carriers, and they can use Su'ar and Daniel as leverage. Amara felt the weight of what she'd taken on settling over her shoulders. How long do we have? Hours. Maybe a day if we're lucky. They'll trace your delivery app account, find your address, send people here. We need to leave as soon as I can walk. You can't walk. You can barely breathe without wincing. Then we improvise. Jiho tried to swing his legs off the bed and immediately gasped in pain, falling back. Damn it! Stop! Amara moved to his side, checking his pulse, his pupils, the IV site. You tear those stitches, you bleed out, and those babies are orphans. Is that what you want? I want them safe. Then trust me to keep you alive long enough to protect them. I've gotten this far, haven't I? He looked at her, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. You're stronger than you think, Amara Okonkwo. I'm terrified. Good. Fear keeps you sharp. He settled back into the pillows. There's a man, Park Hyunwoo. He's Hwarang, but loyal to me. His number is in my phone. Back pocket of my pants. Amara found the phone, a high-end device with a cracked screen. She unlocked it with Jiho's thumbprint and scrolled through the contacts. What do I tell him? That I need the Riverside location. He'll know what that means. And if he's one of the betrayers, then we're already dead, and it doesn't matter. Amara dialed. The phone rang twice before a man answered in rapid Korean. She didn't understand a word. He doesn't speak English, she asked Jiho. Put it on speaker. She did. Jiho spoke in Korean, his voice strained but commanding. The conversation went back and forth for 2 minutes. Then Jiho switched to English. Park, this is important. The woman with me, her name is Amara. She saved my life. She's under my protection now. You understand? I understand, Park replied in accented English. But boss, if she's with you, she's a target. They'll come for her. I know. That's why we need to move. Can you arrange it? Give me 3 hours. Riverside Inn, room 237. It's registered under a shell company, completely clean. I'll have medical supplies, food for the children, and a vehicle. Make it 2 hours. Boss, you need to rest. I'll rest when we're safe. 2 hours, Park. 2 hours. And boss, be careful. They have people everywhere. Even the shadows have shadows now. Jiho ended the call and handed the phone back to Amara. We have 2 hours to prepare. You should pack anything you can't afford to lose. Amara looked around her tiny apartment, a lifetime of belongings that fit in 300 square feet, clothes, a few books, photos of her father. Nothing she couldn't replace except the memories. I'm ready now, she said. You're sure? Once we leave, you can't come back. They'll burn this place looking for clues to where we've gone. There's nothing here worth saving. The words hurt to say, but they were true. This apartment was a monument to her failure. Maybe it was time to let it burn. Jiho nodded, then winced. I need you to do something. In the other car seat, there's a false bottom. Inside is a burner phone and a weapon. Get them both. Amara retrieved the items. The phone was basic, untraceable. The weapon was a compact pistol, similar to the one Jiho had pointed at her. I don't know how to use this, she said, staring at the gun. Safety's here. Point and pull the trigger. Try not to shoot unless you're sure you'll hit what you're aiming at. He paused. And Amara, if they get past me, if I'm dead or captured, you take that gun and you run with the babies. Don't look back. Don't try to save me. Just run. I'm not going to let you die. You might not have a choice. They spent the next hour in tense preparation. Amara packed a bag with essentials, changed the babies again, prepared more bottles. Jiho coached her through the basics of the gun. Though touching it made her skin crawl, she devoted her life to healing, not killing. But maybe in this world, the two weren't so different. At 4 in the morning, Jiho's phone buzzed. A text from Park. Ready? Back alley. Black SUV. Time to go, Jiho said, and tried to stand. This time, with Amara's help, he made it to his feet. He swayed, face pale, but stayed upright. The IV needs to come out. She removed it carefully, applying pressure to the site. Then she helped him into a clean shirt from her closet, something her ex-boyfriend had left behind. It was too small, stretched tight across Jiho's shoulders, but it covered the blood. They made their way downstairs slowly, Jiho leaning heavily on Amara, the babies in their carriers. The black SUV was idling in the alley, windows tinted. A man in his 50s stepped out, Asian, with silver hair and sharp eyes. Boss, he said, bowing slightly. Then to Amara, Miss Okonkwo, thank you for protecting him. Don't thank me yet, Amara muttered, loading the carriers into the back seat. They drove through empty Detroit streets, Park at the wheel, saying nothing. The Riverside Inn was a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city, the kind of place that rented by the hour and didn't ask questions. Perfect for hiding. Room 237 was surprisingly clean. 2 beds, a bathroom, a mini fridge stocked with supplies. Park had even brought a portable crib for the babies. I'll stand watch outside, Park said. You have 12 hours, maybe less. The council is meeting at dawn to vote on succession. If they vote against you, boss, the bounty goes active. How much? Jiho asked. $1.5 million for proof of death, $2.5 million for live capture. Amara felt her knees go weak. She was worth $2.5 million, dead or alive. Get some rest, Park told them. I'll wake you if trouble comes. After he left, Amara helped Jiho onto one of the beds. He was trembling now, fever setting in. She checked his wounds. No signs of infection yet, but it was early. She gave him ibuprofen, all she had, and covered him with blankets. The babies were awake, staring at her with wide eyes. She fed them again, changed them again, rocked them until they slept. By the time she finished, dawn was breaking through the curtains, and she was so exhausted she could barely stand. She collapsed onto the second bed, still wearing her blood-stained clothes, and closed her eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. Every sound made her jump. Every car passing outside could be assassins. Every shadow could be death. Amara. Jiho's voice was soft. Thank you. For everything. Ask me again when we're alive in 24 hours. Even if we die tomorrow, you gave Suar and Daniel one more day. That's everything. She opened her eyes and looked at him across the space between beds. We're not going to die. Such certainty. Not certainty. Stubbornness. I didn't drag your bleeding corpse up 3 flights of stairs just to let some gangsters kill us in a motel room. He laughed, then groaned. Don't make me laugh. It hurts. Then stop talking and sleep. I can't. Too many enemies, too many variables. You have 12 hours. Park is watching. The door is locked. Sleep while you can. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, will you talk to me? Tell me something. Anything. I need to stay awake. Amara sighed. What do you want to know? Your father. You said he died 6 months ago. What happened? The question hurt, but she found herself answering anyway. Stroke. Massive cerebral hemorrhage. He was only 58. We were having dinner, just talking about nothing, and he suddenly grabbed his head, said, it felt like something exploded inside his skull. I called 911, but by the time they got there, he was already unconscious. He died in my arms in the ambulance. The paramedics tried to save him, but there was nothing they could do. I'm sorry. I keep thinking I should have seen it coming. He'd been having headaches for weeks, high blood pressure. I'm a nursing student. I should have known. Should have made him see a doctor. Should have done something. You can't blame yourself for that. Can't I? I had the training. I had the knowledge. And I did nothing. She felt tears burning her eyes. That's why I dropped out. I couldn't face going back to school, learning more ways to save people when I couldn't even save my own father. So you became a delivery driver. It seemed easier. No one depends on you. No one dies if you mess up. You just deliver food and groceries and pretend you're useful. But you weren't satisfied with that. No. I hated it. Hated myself. Every day felt like punishment for failing him. Jiho was quiet, and when he spoke again, his voice was gentle. Your father's last words, don't let them fall. Do you think he meant you should catch everyone? Save everyone? Carry the weight of the world? I don't know what he meant. I think he meant, don't let yourself fall. Don't give up on who you are, what you can become. You have a gift, Amara. The way you treated my wounds, cared for the children, stayed calm under pressure. That's not learned. That's innate. It's not enough. It's everything. Do you know how many people would have run when they saw me? How many would have called the police despite my warning? How many would have left those babies to die because it was easier than getting involved? He shifted in the bed, trying to look at her. You didn't run. You didn't take the easy path. You caught us when we fell. That's who your father raised you to be. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. Amara pressed her face into the scratchy motel pillow and let herself cry for the first time since her father's funeral. All the grief, all the guilt, all the self-hatred pouring out in racking sobs. When she finally stopped, exhausted and hollow, she heard Jiho's steady breathing across the room. He'd fallen asleep. And somehow, despite everything, so did she. She woke to the sound of babies crying and sunlight streaming through the curtains. For a disorienting moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory crashed back. The gunshot, the blood, the tattoos, the $2.5 million bounty on their heads. Amara sat up, her body screaming in protest. Every muscle ached. Her clothes were stiff with dried blood. But the babies needed her. Jiho was still asleep, Fever flushed across his cheeks. She checked his wounds quickly, still clean, thank God. Then she turned her attention to Su'ar and Daniel, who were both wailing with the indignation of hungry infants. Okay, she murmured, preparing. Bottles. I've got you. As she fed them, she studied their faces. Su'ar had Jiho's high cheekbones and serious expression. Daniel was rounder, with a ready smile even through his tears. Both beautiful, both innocent, both worth dying for, apparently. She was burping Daniel when someone knocked on the door. 3 sharp raps. Amara froze. Jiho's eyes snapped open, instantly alert despite the fever. Park's knock is 2 long, 1 short, he whispered. That's not him. What do we do? Bathroom, now. Take the babies and lock the door. Don't come out unless I call for you. I'm not leaving you alone. Amara, please. If something happens to me, those children need you. Go. She wanted to argue, but the knock came again, louder this time. She grabbed both carriers and rushed into the bathroom, locking the door behind her. Through the thin walls, she heard Jiho stand, heard his unsteady footsteps crossing the room. The door opened. Well, a woman's voice said in perfect, unaccented English. You look like hell, husband. Amara's breath caught. Me, son, it had to be. You're dead, Jiho said flatly. I mourned you. Did you, or were you relieved to be free of our arrangement? Footsteps entered the room. Where is she? The woman who saved you. Gone. Liar. Park was seen bringing supplies for infants. So she's here, hiding, with my daughter and that bastard child you insist on claiming. Daniel is my son. Daniel is a liability. No Hwarang blood, no claim to succession. He's worthless. The sound of a slap echoed through the bathroom door. Amara flinched. Watch your mouth. Jiho's voice was ice. That child is under my protection. Your protection means nothing anymore. The council voted this morning, 10-2. You're out, Jiho. Stripped of your position, your authority, your rights. And I'm in. First woman to lead the Hwarang. Quite an honour. You'll destroy everything we built. I'll evolve it. Your problem was always sentimentality. These tattoos on your skin, they're wasted on you. You use them to protect, to maintain balance. I'll use them to expand, to take what we want, to stop hiding in shadows and step into the light. By killing your own daughter. If necessary, Su'ar is leverage, nothing more. Once I have your tattoos, once I extract every piece of data from your skin, I won't need her, or you. Amara heard the distinctive sound of a gun being cocked. Where is she? Jiho. The black woman Park mentioned, the one who patched you up. Bring her out, and I'll make this quick, painless. You and the babies, clean deaths. My gift to you for the years we had. Go to hell! A gunshot exploded through the room. Amara screamed, couldn't help herself, and heard Jiho grunt in pain. She clutched the babies to her chest, their renewed crying muffled against her body. Her hand found the compact pistol in her pocket, the one Jiho had given her. Safety off, point and shoot. But she couldn't leave the babies unprotected, couldn't risk them getting caught in crossfire. That was your kneecap, Misun said calmly. Next one goes through your throat. I'll cut the tattoos off your corpse if I have to. Makes no difference to me, but I'd prefer you alive. Makes the extraction easier. So call her out, or I start with fingers. Amara made a decision. She set the carriers in the bathtub, as far from the door as possible, and grabbed a towel to cover them. Then she gripped the pistol, said a prayer her father had taught her in Igbo, and unlocked the bathroom door. She opened it fast, gun raised, and found herself staring at a woman who could have been a model. Tall, elegant, with razor-sharp features and cold eyes. Misun held a suppressed pistol pointed at Jiho, who was on his knees, blood streaming from his leg, his face grey with pain. There she is, Misun said, not even turning. The saviour, tell me, how much did he offer you? Money? Protection? Or are you just stupid? Put the gun down, Amara said, hating how her voice shook. Now Mi-sun did turn and her eyebrows rose. You're pointing a gun at me? You? A delivery driver? Do you even know how to use that? Point and shoot. Pretty simple. But will you? That's the question. I've killed 17 people. How many have you killed? Mi-sun smiled. That's what I thought. So put the toy away before you hurt yourself. She's right, Jiho gasped. Amara, go. Take the babies and run. Park is outside. He'll protect you. Park is dead, Mi-sun said casually. My people found him 20 minutes ago. Shot him in the car. He didn't suffer, if that helps. The words hit Amara like a physical blow. Park, the older man who'd called her Miss Okonkwo with such respect, who'd arranged this safe house, was dead. Because of her. Because Jiho had tried to protect her. I'm going to count to 3, Mi-sun continued. Then I'm going to shoot your boyfriend here in the spine. Paralyze him. Then I'll take my time cutting the tattoos off while he watches. 1, 2. Amara pulled the trigger. The gun kicked in her hand, the sound deafening in the small room. Mi-sun jerked backward, surprise flashing across her face. But she didn't fall. Body armor under her designer jacket. Of course. But the impact had knocked her off balance. Jiho lunged from his knees, tackling her legs despite his injured shoulder and kneecap. They went down hard, Mi-sun's gun skittering across the floor. Amara dove for it, her fingers closing around the grip, just as Mi-sun kicked Jiho in the face. Stupid, Mi-sun hissed, rolling to her feet with lethal grace. Are both of you so stupidly noble? She pulled a knife from her belt, 10 inches of serrated steel. I'll gut you both and take what I need from your corpses. The bathroom door burst open. 2 men in black tactical gear rushed out, and Amara's heart stopped. But they weren't looking at her. They were grabbing Mi-sun, pulling her back. Boss, one of them said in accented English. Police scanners just lit up. Someone reported gunshots. We have 5 minutes, maybe less. Mi-sun wrenched free from their grip. Fine, but I'm not leaving empty-handed. She advanced on Jiho. Knife raised, Amara fired Mi-sun's gun. Once, twice, 3 times. 1 shot went wide. 1 hit the wall, but the 3rd caught one of Mi-sun's guards in the shoulder, and he went down screaming. You little bitch, Mi-sun snarled, and everything happened at once. The 2nd guard grabbed Mi-sun bodily and hauled her towards the door. Jiho rolled to his feet, somehow, his face a mask of agony and determination, and Amara kept firing until the gun clicked empty. This isn't over, Mi-sun shouted, as her guard dragged her into the hallway. I'll find you. I'll take everything from you. Everyone you love will die. Then they were gone, and the only sounds were the babies crying in the bathroom and Jiho's laboured breathing. We have to move, he gasped. Police will be here. We can't be found. You can't walk. You've been shot twice now. Then carry me. However we do this, we do it now. Amara wanted to scream, to cry, to collapse, but she'd come too far to quit. She grabbed towels from the bathroom, tied them around Jiho's leg to slow the bleeding. Then she retrieved the babies, still miraculously safe in the bathtub. Can you carry Su'a? She asked. Jiho nodded, taking his daughter's carrier in one hand. Amara took Daniel's carrier and looped her other arm under Jiho's shoulders. Together, limping and stumbling, they made it to the parking lot. Park's SUV was still there. Park slumped over the steering wheel, a bullet hole in his temple. Amara's stomach heaved, but she forced herself to open the passenger door, to ease Park's body into the back seat with whispered apologies. I'll drive, she said, though she'd never driven anything bigger than her Honda. Where do we go? Storage facility, industrial district. Park mentioned it as a backup. Jiho gave her an address, his words slurring. Hurry! She drove like a madwoman, running lights, taking corners too fast, the baby screaming in the back. In the rearview mirror, She saw Jiho's eyes closing. "Stay with me," she commanded. "You don't get to die after I shot someone for you. You hear me? Stay awake." "Bossy," he mumbled, but his eyes opened. "I like it." "Oh my God, are you delirious?" "Maybe. You're very beautiful when you're angry. Did I mention that?" "You're definitely delirious." But despite everything, Amara felt her lips twitch. Save the compliments for when you're not bleeding out. The storage facility was a massive complex of units, mostly empty, scheduled for demolition. Amara pulled into the darkest corner she could find and killed the engine. For a moment, they just sat there, breathing, alive against all odds. "We can't stay here long," Jiho said. "Mi-sun knows all of Park's backup locations. She'll check them all. Then, what do we do?" "I have one more contact. Someone even Mi-sun doesn't know about, but it's risky. Riskier than what we just survived. Much." He pulled out his cracked phone and dialed. The conversation was in Korean, brief and intense. When he hung up, his face was grim. "We have a meeting in 2 hours, underground parking garage downtown. But Amara, if this goes wrong, you take the babies and you run. Promise me." "I'm not promising that." "Then I'm not going." She wanted to argue, but the steel in his voice stopped her. "Fine, I promise. If it goes wrong, I run with the babies. Happy?" "No, but it's the best I can hope for." They spent the next 2 hours in the SUV, Amara tending to Jiho's wounds as best she could with the limited supplies Park had brought. The bullet had gone clean through his kneecap, shattering bone. He'd never walk normally again without surgery. But he was alive. They were all alive. The babies had finally exhausted themselves crying and were sleeping peacefully, unaware of the violence that surrounded them. Amara envied their innocence. "Tell me about Daniel's father," she said quietly, needing to break the heavy silence. "Jae-sung." Jiho's expression softened. "He was my blood brother. We grew up together in Seoul, ran the streets together. When I came to America to establish the Hwarang's presence here, he came with me. He was the only person I trusted completely." "What happened to him?" 3 months ago, there was an ambush. A rival organization tried to steal our client list. Jae-sung threw himself in front of the bullets meant for me. He saved my life and died in my arms. Jiho's voice cracked. His last words were asking me to protect Daniel, to raise him as my own son. I swore I would. "And Daniel's mother? She died in childbirth. Daniel was only 2 months old when Jae-sung died. So I took him, raised him alongside Sua. They're siblings in every way that matters." "Mi-sun said he's not Hwarang blood. What does that mean?" "The Hwarang have strict succession rules. Only blood descendants can inherit leadership. Daniel's adoption makes him ineligible, which means Sua is the only legitimate heir to my position. That's why Mi-sun wants her dead. Eliminate the competition before it grows up." "That's monstrous." "That's tradition. Old ways that value bloodlines over competence. It's one of the many things I've been trying to change." He looked at her. "The Hwarang isn't just a criminal organization. We provide services. Identity protection for abuse victims, data security for journalists in dangerous countries. We've helped expose corrupt politicians, protected whistleblowers. Yes, we break laws, but we also save lives." "You're trying to make yourself sound noble." "I'm trying to make you understand that the world isn't black and white, that sometimes good people do bad things for good reasons, and sometimes bad people do bad things for profit. Which one are you?" He smiled faintly. "I'm still figuring that out." The 2 hours passed too quickly. As they drove to the meeting location, Amara felt dread settling in her stomach. This could be a trap. Could be the end of everything. But what choice did they have? The parking garage was in downtown Detroit, under a half-empty office building. Level 3, Section C. Amara parked in the designated spot and cut the engine. They waited. 5 minutes later, headlights appeared. A black Mercedes, sleek and expensive. It pulled up beside them, and a man stepped out. He was younger than Amara expected, maybe late 20s, with dyed blonde hair and a face full of piercings. "That's Yoon," Jiho said. "He's complicated." "Complicated how?" "He's Misun's younger brother, but he hates her more than anyone." Before Amara could process that, Yoon opened Jiho's door. "Hyung," he said, the Korean term of respect heavy with emotion. "You look like death. Feel like it too." Jiho gripped Yoon's arm. "Thank you for coming. Misun put a bounty on your head, 2.5 million. Every Hwarang enforcer in North America is hunting you." Yoon's eyes found Amara. "You must be the delivery driver who started all this." "I didn't start anything," Amara said defensively. "No? You saved his life. That makes you the most dangerous piece on the board. Misun fears you more than she fears him, because you're unpredictable. You're not Hwarang. You don't follow our rules, and yet you've kept him alive when trained killers couldn't. I'm just trying to protect the babies." "The babies." Yoon's expression hardened. "My niece and her adopted brother. Misun wants to kill Suar, you know, her own daughter, just to secure power." "I know," Jiho told me. "And you stayed anyway. Either you're brave or insane." Yoon studied her. "I think both." "Can you help us?" Jiho cut in. "The council voted against me. I need to know who supported Misun, who can be turned." Everyone supported her. The vote was 10-2. Only Old Man Kim and Young Lee voted for you, and they're already dead. Misun had them executed this morning for disloyalty. The words hit like hammer blows. Good men dead because they'd stayed loyal. "Then it's over," Jiho said quietly. "She's won." "No." Yoon's voice was fierce. "She's won the council, but she hasn't won the Hwarang. Half the organization is uncomfortable with her methods. She's already talking about expanding into weapons trafficking, human smuggling, things we've never touched, things that violate the code. Code doesn't matter if no one enforces it. Then we make them enforce it. We expose her, show the organization what she really is." Yoon pulled out a tablet. "I've been gathering evidence for months. Financial records showing embezzlement, communications proving she faked her death, even video of her ordering Park's execution. If you're still with us, drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from. Are you Team Amara or Team Jiho? And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more intense stories like this one." Amara leaned forward. "That's enough to turn the council against her. Maybe, if we can get them all in one room, if we can present the evidence before she kills us. Big ifs." "So we call a meeting," Jiho said. "Emergency session. Invoke the old code. They have to attend. You're not in a position to invoke anything. You're stripped of authority. Remember?" But she's not. Jiho looked at Amara. "The woman who saved my life and my children, according to the old code. That makes her family. That makes her Hwarang by protection." "Are you insane?" Yoon stared at him. "You want to bring an outsider into the council, a black woman. They'll riot. Let them. Amara has more honor than half that council combined, and she's earned her place at the table." "I don't want a place at any table," Amara protested. "I just want these babies safe." "Then you want the same thing I do, and the only way to get it is to remove Misun from power permanently." Jiho's eyes were hard. "Will you help me? One more time?" She should say no. Should take the babies and run like she'd promised. Should disappear into a new life, somewhere far from Detroit and Korean crime syndicates and $2.5 million bounties. But she thought of Park, dead in the back seat, of the old council members executed for loyalty, of Suar and Daniel, who deserved a chance to grow up safe. "What do I have to do?" she asked. 3 hours later, Amara stood in a private room at a Korean restaurant in Detroit's Greektown district, wearing a dress Yoon had bought her and holding a baby on each hip. The council was assembling, 12 men, though 2 chairs sat empty now, representing the dead. They ranged in age from 50s to 70s, all Korean, all dressed in expensive suits that probably cost more than her yearly income. They stared at her like she was an alien. Jiho sat at the head of the table, his leg bandaged under his pants, his face pale but determined. Yoon stood behind him, tablet ready, and Misun sat at the opposite end, her cold eyes fixed on Amara with murderous intent. "This is a farce," Misun said in Korean, then switched to English. "We don't allow outsiders at council meetings, especially not her kind." "Her kind saved my life," Jiho replied. "Her kind showed more courage and honor than anyone in this room, and according to the old code, Article 7, anyone who saves a council member's life and the lives of blood heirs is granted protection and voice. That code hasn't been invoked in 30 years. Then it's overdue." Jiho stood, wincing with pain, and gestured to Amara. "This is Amara Okonkwo. She pulled me from death. She protected Suar and Daniel when my own security betrayed me. She killed for us, bled for us, and she asks nothing in return except the safety of these children." "Touching," Misun said. "Are we supposed to applaud?" "You're supposed to answer for your crimes." Yoon stepped forward, activating the tablet. A video began playing on the screen mounted on the wall. "This is security footage from Park Hyun-woo's apartment complex. That's you, Nuna, ordering his execution." Mi-sun's face didn't change. Park was a traitor. He died as traitors should. And this. Another video. Financial records showing you've been embezzling from the organization for 2 years, $3 million diverted to offshore accounts. Creative accounting. And this, a final video, Mi-sun in a hospital room, very much alive, talking to a doctor about faking her own death. You lied to everyone, abandoned your daughter, orchestrated a coup, all for power. The council members were murmuring now, switching between Korean and English, their faces troubled. But Mi-sun just smiled. "I did what was necessary. Jiho was weak. Is weak. He refuses to expand our operations, refuses to take what we deserve. Under my leadership, the Hwarang will become the most powerful organization in North America, will control governments, corporations, entire industries, and anyone who stands in my way will die. Including your own daughter." Jiho's voice was quiet, but lethal. "Including everyone." The room exploded into argument. Half the council was shouting support for Mi-sun. The other half was demanding her arrest. And in the chaos, Amara saw Mi-sun's hand move to her jacket. "Gun!" she screamed. Everything slowed down. Mi-sun drew her weapon, aiming not at Jiho, but at Amara, at the babies. Yoon lunged forward. Jiho threw himself in front of the table, and Amara did the only thing she could think of. She dropped, fell to her knees, clutching Suar and Daniel to her chest, making herself the smallest target possible. The gunshot was deafening. She felt the bullet pass over her head, heard it impact the wall. Then more gunshots, overlapping, coming from multiple directions. When silence fell, Amara looked up. Mi-sun was on the floor, bleeding from her shoulder. Yoon held a smoking gun. And 3 council members lay dead, shot by Mi-sun's guards who'd been stationed outside the room. "It's over," Jiho said, standing over his wife. "You're finished, Mi-sun." "Am I?" She laughed, even bleeding. "You think killing me stops this? I have supporters everywhere. They'll hunt you until you're dead. All of you. Then we'll be ready." Jiho looked at the remaining council members. "Vote. Now. Mi-sun or me. Old ways or new. Choose." One by one, they raised their hands. 7 for Jiho, 2 abstaining, none for Mi-sun. "The council has spoken," Jiho said. "Mi-sun, you are stripped of all authority and exiled. You have 24 hours to leave the country. If you're found on American soil after that, the penalty is death." "You'll regret this," Mi-sun spat. "All of you. Probably." Jiho nodded to Yoon. "Get her out of here." As Yoon hauled Mi-sun away, the remaining council members approached Amara. The oldest, a man in his 70s with white hair and kind eyes, bowed to her. "Miss Okonkwo," he said in careful English, "you have shown great courage. The Hwareng is in your debt." "I don't want a debt. I just want to go home." "Where is home?" She looked at Jiho, at the babies in her arms, at the strange new world she'd stumbled into. "I'm not sure anymore." The old man smiled. "Then perhaps you need time to figure it out. You are welcome in our organization, not as a member, but as family, protected, honored, free to leave whenever you wish. And if I want to leave now, then you take our gratitude and our blessing, but consider staying, at least until these little ones are safe. They need a mother, and from what I've seen, you need them too." The words struck deeper than Amara expected. She looked down at Su'ar and Daniel, both miraculously asleep despite the violence. They'd burrowed into her arms like they belonged there, like she was their safe place. Maybe she was. "I'll stay," she said quietly, "for now, until we're all safe." The council meeting ended with agreements and arrangements. Safe houses would be established, security upgraded, the organization restructured to prevent future coups. And through it all, Amara sat in a corner, feeding babies and wondering what the hell she'd gotten herself into. When everyone finally left, Jiho limped over to her. "You could have run. When Mi-sun pulled the gun, you could have left the babies and saved yourself. Why didn't you?" "Because your daughter drools on my shoulder and your son grabs my finger when he's scared. Because they trust me, and I won't break that trust. Even if it costs your life, even then." He studied her for a long moment. "You're extraordinary, Amara Okonkwo. I'm terrified and exhausted and way out of my depth. But sure, let's go with extraordinary." He laughed, then winced. "I need to see a doctor. A real one, not a nurse student turned delivery driver." "Agreed, and you need surgery on that knee, and probably therapy for whatever trauma we've all just experienced." "After. First, we need to secure Su'ar and Daniel. Make sure Mi-sun can't reach them. Then we can fall apart. Deal." She stood, still holding both babies. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere Mi-sun will never think to look. Somewhere safe, quiet, and boring." "Sounds perfect." It took 3 days to arrange everything. 3 days of safe houses and encrypted communications and constant fear that Mi-sun would ignore her exile and come back with an army. But she didn't. Maybe Yoon's threat had been enough. Maybe she'd decided to regroup and plan a better attack. Either way, they had a window of safety. Small, fragile, but real. Jiho's knee surgery went well. The doctors said he'd walk again, though he'd always have a limp. He took the news with equanimity. Battle scars, he called them, reminders of the cost of survival. Amara spent those 3 days learning to be a mother. Changing diapers became second nature. Mixing formula turned into muscle memory. She learned that Su'ar liked to be held facing outward so she could see the world, while Daniel preferred to burrow into the crook of her neck. She learned their different cries, their preferences, their personalities, and she fell completely, irrevocably in love with both of them. On the 4th day, they moved into a penthouse overlooking the Detroit River. Absurdly luxurious, with floor-to-ceiling windows and more square footage than Amara had lived in her entire life. Jiho had insisted if they were going to be targets, he'd said, they might as well be comfortable targets. The first night in the new place, after the babies were finally asleep in their nursery and Yoon was on guard duty in the lobby, Amara and Jiho sat on the balcony watching the city lights. "I called my mother," Amara said, "told her I was okay, that I'd found a new job." "What did you tell her about the job?" "Nanny for a very rich, very paranoid Korean businessman." Not technically a lie. "No, not technically." He was quiet for a moment. "Do you regret it?" "Any of it?" She thought about her old life, the cramped apartment, the delivery routes, the endless grinding loneliness. No, I don't regret it, but I don't fully understand it either. A week ago, I was nobody. Now I'm apparently Huareng family, whatever that means. I have 2 babies depending on me, a crime boss recovering from multiple gunshot wounds on my couch, and a bounty on my head that's probably still active. It's insane, completely insane, he agreed. So why does it feel more right than anything in my life has ever felt? Jiho turned to look at her, and in the city lights, his face was beautiful, scarred now, marked by violence, but beautiful. Because you're finally living instead of existing, because you're using your gifts instead of burying them, because you've found your purpose, taking care of gangsters and their babies, taking care of people who need you. Isn't that what you always wanted? To save lives? I wanted to be a nurse. This is not nursing. Isn't it? You've patched wounds, administered medication, provided care under impossible conditions. You've done everything a nurse does and more. The only difference is your patients are criminals. Reformed criminals, she corrected. Are we reformed, or just on hiatus? It was a good question. The Huarang still existed, still operated in grey areas of legality. Jiho was implementing changes, cleaning up operations, moving toward more legitimate business, but they were still, fundamentally, a criminal organisation. I think, Amara said slowly, that I don't care. I think morality is more complicated than I thought. And I think these babies deserve a chance at life, regardless of where they came from. And me. Do I deserve a chance? She looked at him, really looked at him, at the tattoos that marked him as dangerous, at the scars that marked him as survivor, at the gentle hands that held his daughter with such care. Everyone deserves a chance, she said, even people who've done terrible things. That's what my father believed. That's what I choose to believe too. He reached out and took her hand. His palm was warm, his grip strong despite his injuries. Thank you for everything, for saving us, for staying, for giving us all a second chance. Thank you for showing me I could be more than I thought. They sat like that for a long time, hands linked, watching the city, and for the first time since her father's death, Amara felt something like peace. The next morning brought new complications. Yoon appeared at breakfast with news that made Jiho's face go dark. "Me son didn't leave the country," Yoon said without preamble. "She's in Chicago, building an army, at least 50 enforcers, maybe more. She's calling in favors from every Huarang cell across North America." "She's going to attack," Jiho said. "Worse, she's going to start a war, split the organization, force everyone to choose sides. And she's using you as the villain. Says you brought an outsider into sacred spaces. Says you've betrayed the blood." Jiho stood abruptly, wincing as his knee protested. "Then we need to move first. Call the council. Emergency session. Today." "Already done. They're meeting in 2 hours." "Good. And Yoon? I need you to do something else. Something difficult. Anything, Hyung. I need you to contact Mi-sun's supporters. Offer them a choice. Join us or be exiled with her. No middle ground. We end this now, one way or another." After Yoon left, Amara cornered Jiho in the kitchen. "You can't go to this meeting. You're barely healed. One wrong move and your knee gives out. You're helpless. I have to go. Show strength. Show the council I'm fit to lead." "You're not fit to lead anywhere except back to bed." She crossed her arms. "Let me come with you." "Absolutely not. You said I'm family now, so I have a say. And I say I'm coming." "Amara, if this goes wrong, if Mi-sun's people attack, you'll be in the crossfire. The babies will be orphaned. The babies will be orphaned if Mi-sun wins and kills you. At least if I'm there, I can help. I can fight. You shot someone once. That doesn't make you a fighter." "No, but it makes me someone who will pull the trigger when necessary, and right now, You need people like that beside you. He wanted to argue. She could see it in his face. But finally, he nodded. Fine. But you follow my lead. You don't take unnecessary risks, and if I tell you to run, you run. Understood? Understood. The council met in a warehouse on the outskirts of Detroit. Neutral ground, heavily secured. Amara left Suar and Daniel with a trusted bodyguard, hating every second of separation, but knowing it was necessary. They couldn't risk the babies in a potential war zone. Inside the warehouse, tensions were high. 8 council members had shown up. 3 were absent, their loyalty unclear. Jiho took his place at the head of the table, and Amara stood behind him, trying to project confidence she didn't feel. We have a problem, Jiho began. Mi-sun has refused exile. She's gathering forces to challenge this council's authority. We need to decide how to respond. We should negotiate, one council member said. An older man, nervous, fidgeting. Find a compromise. Split the organization if we must. There is no compromise with someone who tried to murder her own daughter, Jiho replied. Mi-sun has made her choice. Now we make ours. Easy for you to say, another council member spoke up. This one younger, aggressive. You have nothing to lose. The rest of us have families, businesses, lives that will be destroyed if this becomes a war. And what lives will your families have under Mi-sun's leadership? When she expands into weapons trafficking, human smuggling, when she turns the Hwarang into everything we swore never to become, at least we'll be alive. Will you? Amara heard herself speak before she could stop. All eyes turned to her. Mi-sun executed 2 council members for not supporting her. How long before she executes you for questioning her? How long before loyalty becomes a death sentence? You don't have a voice here, outsider. She has every right to speak, Jiho cut in. She's saved my life twice, killed for this organization, bled for it. She's earned her voice. The arguments continued for an hour. Some council members wanted to fight. Others wanted to flee. None had solutions that didn't end in blood. Then Yoon burst through the door, his face pale. They're coming. Mi-sun's forces. At least 30 vehicles. Maybe 3 minutes out. How did she know we were here? Jiho demanded. Someone told her. Yoon looked around the table. Someone in this room. Chaos erupted. Council members were shouting, accusing, reaching for weapons. And in the midst of it, Amara saw the nervous older man pull a phone from his pocket. There, she said, pointing. He's the leak. The man ran. Jiho lunged after him despite his bad knee, and they went down in a tangle of limbs. The phone skittered across the floor. Amara grabbed it, saw the text message. Meeting at warehouse. Come now. You sold us out, Jiho said, his hands around the man's throat. Your own people. She promised me safety. The man gasped. Promised my family would be spared if I helped her. And you believed her. Gunfire erupted outside. The windows shattered, glass raining down. Amara threw herself behind a support pillar as bullets tore through the warehouse. She could see Mi-sun's forces advancing, at least 20 armed men, military-grade weapons. We're outnumbered, Yoon shouted over the gunfire. We need to retreat. Back exit, Jiho ordered. Everyone move. They ran, half crawling, half stumbling toward the rear of the warehouse. Amara kept close to Jiho, ready to catch him if his knee gave out. Behind them, the traitor council member screamed as Mi-sun's forces found him. They burst into the alley behind the warehouse. 3 cars were waiting, engines running. Jiho's people, thank God. They piled in, Amara and Jiho in the lead vehicle, and tore away as the warehouse exploded behind them, literally exploded. Someone had rigged it with explosives, and the blast wave rocked their car, shattering the rear windshield. Mi-sun's not playing around, Yoon said from the driver's seat. She wants us dead, all of us. Then we give her what she wants. Jiho replied. We die. What? Amara stared at him. Have you lost your mind? We fake our deaths, make her think she's won, then we come back when she's vulnerable and take everything from her. That's insane. That's survival. He looked at Yoon. Can you arrange it? Bodies, dental records, the works. It'll take time. And money. We have both. Do it. The next 72 hours were a blur. Yoon arranged for bodies from the morgue, homeless men with no families who died of natural causes. Dental records were swapped. DNA evidence was planted, and a story was leaked to Mi-sun's network. Ji-ho, Amara, and 3 council members had died in the warehouse explosion. Meanwhile, the real Ji-ho and Amara hid in a safe house in the suburbs, watching news reports of their own deaths. This is surreal, Amara said, staring at her photo on the screen. I'm dead. According to the world, I don't exist. Free, Ji-ho corrected. According to the world, you're free. No past, no debts, no obligations. You can be anyone now. I don't want to be anyone. I want to be me. Then be you. Just be you in hiding for a few more weeks. It was harder than Amara expected. Being dead meant no contact with her mother in Lagos. No checking her old social media accounts. No acknowledging her previous existence. She was a ghost, and ghosts didn't get to have lives. But she had the babies. Suar and Daniel had been smuggled to the safe house within hours of the fake deaths, and they became her anchor to reality. As long as she could feed them, change them, rock them to sleep, she was still real, still useful, still herself. Ji-ho was healing. His knee was getting stronger, though the limp remained. The shoulder wound had closed cleanly, but it was the emotional wounds that worried Amara. She'd catch him staring at nothing, his face blank, and she knew he was replaying every betrayal, every death, every failure. Talk to me, she said one night, when the babies were finally asleep. Don't shut me out. I'm fine. You're not. You're barely sleeping, barely eating. You're drowning and pretending you're swimming. He was silent for a long moment, then. Park trusted me. The council members who voted for me trusted me, and they're all dead because I wasn't strong enough to protect them. They died because Mi-sun is a monster, not because you failed. I brought you into this, put you in danger, made you a target. How is that not failure? I chose to stay, Ji-ho. Every step of the way, I chose this. You didn't force me. You gave me options, and I chose you. I chose the babies. I chose this life. Why? You could have walked away a dozen times, could have taken the money and disappeared. Why stay? She moved closer to him on the couch, close enough that their shoulders touched. Because for the first time in months, I felt like I mattered. Like what I did made a difference. My father spent his whole life helping people, and I spent mine running from that legacy. But here, with you, with Suar and Daniel, I finally understand what he meant. About catching people when they fall. We're not falling anymore. We're in free fall. Then we'll hit the ground together. She took his hand, lacing their fingers. You're not alone in this, Ji-ho. You have Yoon. You have the loyal council members. And you have me. He turned to look at her, and something shifted in his expression. Something soft and vulnerable that she'd never seen before. Amara, I need to tell you something. And you're probably going to think I'm crazy. I already think you're crazy. We faked our deaths and are hiding in suburban Detroit with infant twins. Sanity left the building weeks ago. He smiled, but it faded quickly. I'm falling for you, have been since you carried me up those stairs to your apartment. You were terrified and bleeding and exhausted, but you didn't quit, didn't give up. And every day since, you've been stronger than I thought possible, braver than anyone I've known. And I'm falling for you so hard it terrifies me. Amara's breath caught. She'd felt it too, the pull between them. The way her heart raced when he looked at her, the way his touch sent electricity through her skin. But she'd convinced herself it was just adrenaline, just proximity, just the intensity of their situation. Now, sitting in the quiet safety of the safe house, she couldn't lie to herself anymore. "I'm falling too," she whispered. "And it does terrify me, because I've lost everyone I've ever loved. My father, my mother, in a different way, even my old life, and losing you would break me. Then we don't lose each other. We hold on, no matter what comes." He leaned in slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met, soft at first, tentative, then deeper, more urgent, weeks of tension and fear and longing pouring into the kiss. His hand cupped her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone. Her fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jiho rested his forehead against hers. "I don't deserve you." "Shut up. We don't have time for self-pity." She kissed him again, shorter this time, but no less intense. "We have babies to protect and a psychotic ex-wife to defeat. Romance will have to wait." "You call this romance?" "I'm offended. When I properly romance you, Amara Okonkwo, you'll know it. Is that a promise?" "It's a guarantee, assuming we survive the next few weeks." "Optimistic and romantic. You're full of surprises." They spent that night talking, really talking, not about strategy or survival, but about themselves. Jiho told her about growing up in Seoul, the son of a mid-level Hwarang operative who'd died when Jiho was 12. How he'd clawed his way up through the organization, earning respect through intelligence rather than violence. How he'd always wanted to transform the Hwarang into something better, something that helped more than it hurt. Amara told him about her childhood in Detroit, the daughter of Nigerian immigrants who'd sacrificed everything for her education, how her father had worked 3 jobs to pay for her nursing school, how she'd dropped out not just because of his death, but because she'd lost faith in herself, lost faith that she could ever be good enough. "You're more than good enough," Jiho said fiercely. "You're exceptional. Your father would be proud of who you've become. I've become a fake dead criminal associate who's in love with a tattooed Korean gangster. I don't think that's what he had in mind. No, you've become a woman who saves lives, who protects children, who fights for what's right, even when it's terrifying. That's exactly what he had in mind." She wanted to believe him, wanted to think her father would understand the choices she'd made, but doubt was a hard habit to break. The next morning, Yoon arrived with news. "Mi-sun bought it. She thinks you're dead. She's already consolidating power, making moves to take over completely." "Good," Jiho said. "Let her get comfortable. Let her think she's won. There's more. Daniel's medical records. They're not what you think." Amara felt ice in her stomach. "What do you mean?" "I pulled his birth certificate to arrange new documents. Daniel isn't Jae-sung's biological son. He's adopted. And according to the records, his biological father was African American." The room went silent. Amara looked at Daniel, sleeping peacefully in his carrier. His skin was lighter than Suar's. True, his features softer, less distinctly Korean. She'd noticed, but assumed it was just individual variation. "Does it matter?" she asked quietly. "He's still Jae-sung's son, still part of this family." "It matters to the Hwarang," Yoon said. "Succession rules are based on blood. If the council finds out Daniel isn't blood, it complicates everything. Makes Suar the only legitimate heir, makes her even more valuable. And more vulnerable," Jiho finished. "Mi-sun will use this. Will expose Daniel's adoption to invalidate any claim I have through him." "So we don't tell anyone," Amara said. "We keep it secret. Secrets have a way of coming out, especially in our world. Then we change the rules. Make it so blood doesn't matter. Make it so adopted children have the same rights as biological ones. That would require a complete restructuring of the Hwarangé code, decades of tradition thrown out." "Good. Your traditions are what got us into this mess." Amara felt anger rising, protective and fierce. Daniel is your son. Suar is your daughter. Both of them. And anyone who says different can go to hell. Jiho smiled, genuine and warm. Have I mentioned I love it when you're fierce? Focus, lovebirds. Yoon interrupted. We have bigger problems. Mi-sun is planning something. My sources say she's arranged a meeting with the full council. All 12 seats, even the dead ones, will be filled with her supporters. She's going to legitimize her takeover, make it official. When? 3 days. At the original Hwareng headquarters in Koreatown. Then that's where we strike. We come back from the dead and take everything from her. It's suicide, Yoon protested. She'll have 30, maybe 40 guards. We have what? 5 loyal people? 6. We have surprise. We have evidence of her crimes. And we have right on our side. Right doesn't stop bullets, Hyung. No, but it gives us a reason to dodge them. Jiho stood, testing his knee. It held. Start preparing. I want every loyal Hwarang member contacted. Everyone who's uncomfortable with Mi-sun's leadership. Give them a choice. Stand with us or stay out of the way, but make it clear. This is their last chance to choose. Over the next 3 days, Amara watched Jiho transform from wounded survivor to strategic warrior. He planned every detail of their assault on the council meeting, escape routes, backup plans, contingencies for every possible disaster. And through it all, he remained calm, focused, certain. Amara wasn't certain. She was terrified. But she'd learned that courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was acting despite fear. And she would act for Jiho, for the babies, for the chance at a life that mattered. The night before the council meeting, she held both babies while they slept, memorizing their faces. Suar's serious expression even in sleep. Daniel's ready smile that lit up his whole face. They were so innocent, so unaware of the violence that surrounded them. I promise, she whispered to them in Igbo, the language of her father. I promise I won't let you fall. Whatever happens tomorrow, I'll catch you. Jiho appeared in the doorway. It's not too late. You can still walk away. Take the babies somewhere safe. I'll have Yoon arrange new identities, money, everything you need. Stop asking me to leave. The answer will always be no. Even if it means dying tomorrow? Even then. She looked up at him. We're family now, right? That's what you told the council. Family doesn't abandon each other. He crossed the room and knelt beside her, careful of his knee. His hand covered hers where it rested on Daniel's back. When this is over, when Mi-sun is defeated and the babies are safe, I'm going to properly court you, take you to nice restaurants, buy you flowers, do all the normal relationship things we've skipped. I'm holding you to that. I expect expensive flowers, roses at minimum. Roses. Noted. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. Thank you, Amara, for everything, for giving me hope when I had none, for loving my children, for loving me. Love is easy. It's the staying alive part that's hard. Then let's focus on that tomorrow, staying alive. The council meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m. Jiho's team arrived at 6, using a tunnel system that ran beneath Koreatown. Remnants of Prohibition-era smuggling routes, now used by the Hwarang for exactly this kind of situation. There were 8 of them total. Jiho, Amara, Yoon, and 5 loyal Hwarang members who'd been horrified by Mi-sun's methods. Not an army, barely a squad. But they had surprise, determination, and nothing left to lose. They emerged in the basement of the headquarters building. Above them, they could hear footsteps, voices, the council gathering. Mi-sun was probably already there, triumphant, ready to claim her victory. Remember the plan, Jiho said quietly. We go in fast and loud. Yoon projects the evidence before anyone can react. I make the challenge, and we pray the council chooses honor over fear. And if they don't, one of the Hwarang members asked, then we fight our way out and burn this whole organization to the ground. They moved up the stairs, weapons drawn but held low. The council room was on the third floor, a traditional Korean-style space with floor seating and low tables. Through the door, Amara could hear Mi-sun's voice, confident and cold. The old ways are dead. Ji-ho is dead, and the Hwarang will rise stronger than ever under my leadership. All in favor? Now, Ji-ho said and kicked open the door. The room froze. 12 council members, Mi-sun at the head of the table, 30 guards stationed around the perimeter, all staring at the ghosts of Ji-ho and Amara like they were hallucinations. The old ways aren't dead, Ji-ho said, walking into the room with Amara at his side. And neither am I. Surprise. Mi-sun recovered first, her face twisting with rage. Kill them now. But Yoon was faster. He activated the projector he'd brought, and suddenly the walls were covered with evidence. Video of Mi-sun ordering executions, financial records of embezzlement, communications proving she'd orchestrated the coup, faked her death, betrayed everything the Hwarang stood for. This is your leader, Ji-ho announced. This is the woman you're following, a murderer, a thief, a traitor to everything we believe in. Lies, Mi-sun shrieked. Doctored evidence. He's trying to steal back power. Then let the council decide. Ji-ho turned to the 12 men around the table. You've seen the evidence. You know what she is. So vote. Her or me. Old corruption or new direction. Choose now. The room was silent. Amara could hear her own heartbeat, could feel the weight of 30 guns pointed at them. One wrong move, and they'd be massacred. Then one council member stood. An older man, with grey hair and steady eyes. I vote for Ji-ho. For honour. For the real Hwarang code. Another stood. Ji-ho. Then another. Ji-ho. One by one, they rose. 8 total, 2/3 of the council. Mi-sun looked around wildly. You're all traitors. I'll have you killed. I'll destroy your families. You're done, Mi-sun, Ji-ho said quietly. It's over. She laughed, high and broken. Over? You think this is over? She pulled a phone from her pocket. I have 12 bombs planted throughout Detroit. Hospitals, schools, places where your precious civilians gather. One call and they all detonate. Hundreds dead, maybe thousands. You're bluffing. Am I? She held up the phone, her finger over a button. Let me leave. Let me take what's mine and disappear. Or I press this button and we all become mass murderers. The room held its breath. Amara felt ice in her veins. Mi-sun was insane enough to do it. Desperate enough. And Ji-ho knew it too. She could see the calculation in his eyes, the terrible math of lives versus principles. Let her go, Amara heard herself say. It's not worth it. Let her go. No. One of the council members said. He pulled out his own phone. I've been tracking her communications. There are no bombs. She's lying. She's always been lying. Mi-sun's face went white, then red with rage. She lunged at the council member, a knife suddenly in her hand, but Yoon was faster. He fired once, precise and clean, and Mi-sun crumpled to the floor. For a moment, no one moved. Then Ji-ho was kneeling beside his wife, checking her pulse. She's alive, shoulder wound, she'll survive. To stand trial, the grey-haired council member said, for all her crimes. Agreed? Agreed, Ji-ho said. And just like that, it was over. Mi-sun was arrested, hauled away by Hwarang security. The council voted officially, 10-2 in favour of Ji-ho's leadership, and Amara found herself recognised as an official member of the Hwarang family, the first outsider ever granted such status. It should have felt like victory. Instead, she just felt exhausted. They returned to the safe house as the sun rose, the babies crying for their morning feeding. Amara prepared bottles on autopilot, her hands shaking now that the adrenaline was fading. We did it, Ji-ho said, sinking onto the couch. We actually survived. Barely. She handed him Sua's bottle. And now what? We just go back to normal, pretend none of this happened? No, we build something new, something better. He looked at her seriously. Amara, the council voted to change the succession rules. Adopted children now have equal rights to biological ones. Daniel is my legitimate heir, just like Su'a. And it's because of you, because you fought for him. I fought for all of us. I know, and I want to make it official. Not the Hwarang way, but the legal way. I want to adopt both children, and I want you to be their mother, officially, legally, if you'll have us. Amara felt tears burning her eyes. You're asking me to be a mother? To criminals' babies? I'm asking you to be a mother to 2 children who love you, who need you, who chose you just as much as you chose them. He paused. And I'm asking you to be my partner. In everything. The Hwarang, the children, life, all of it. I love you, Amara, completely, terrifyingly, and I don't want to do any of this without you. She looked at Su'a and Daniel, both watching her with wide, trusting eyes. She thought of her father, of his last words, of the guilt that had haunted her for months, and she realized the guilt was gone. She'd caught them, all of them. She'd kept her promise. Yes, she said, tears streaming down her face. Yes to all of it. To being their mother. To being your partner. To this insane, dangerous, beautiful life we've somehow built together. Jiho set down the bottle and pulled her into his arms, careful not to disturb the babies. They sat like that for a long time, a makeshift family forged in blood and fire and desperate hope, watching the sun rise over Detroit and knowing they'd survived the impossible. 3 months later, Amara stood in the Hwarang Council chamber wearing a traditional Nigerian dress her mother had sent from Lagos. Jiho stood beside her in a perfectly tailored suit, his neck tattoos visible and proud, and between them, in a double stroller, Su'a and Daniel slept peacefully. The council had gathered to officially recognize their new family structure, Amara as co-leader alongside Jiho, both children as legitimate heirs, a new code, a new direction, a new Hwarang. This is unprecedented, the grey-haired council member said. He'd introduced himself as Kim Sang-woo, and he'd become their strongest ally, an outsider, a woman, a black woman no less, leading the Hwarang alongside a man who's rewriting centuries of tradition. Unprecedented doesn't mean wrong, Amara replied. She'd learned to speak with confidence in these meetings, learned that her voice mattered. The world is changing. Either we change with it, or we become irrelevant. Well said. Kim bowed to her, a sign of deep respect. Welcome to the council, Amara Okonkwo. May you lead with wisdom and strength. The other council members echoed the bow, 10 men acknowledging a woman as their equal. 6 months ago, it would have been unthinkable. Now, it was simply reality. After the ceremony, Yoon pulled them aside. I have news. Misun's trial is next week. She's facing life in prison, maybe death penalty, depending on how the Korean government prosecutes. But her supporters are making noise, talking about appeals, about injustice. Let them talk, Jiho said. We have documentation of every crime. She'll answer for all of it. And us? Amara asked. When do we answer for our crimes? What crimes? Yoon looked genuinely confused. Kidnapping, technically. Assault. Murder, in some definitions. We've broken dozens of laws. You protected children, stopped a tyrant, reformed a criminal. Organization. In my book, that's heroism, not crime. The law might disagree. Then we make sure the law never finds out. Jiho squeezed her hand. We've been given a second chance, Amara, all of us. Let's not waste it on guilt. She wanted to argue, but he was right. They'd done terrible things for good reasons. She'd killed a man, shot at others, become complicit in crimes she couldn't even name, but she'd also saved lives, protected children. Maybe that balanced the scales, or maybe it didn't. Either way, she couldn't change the past. She could only move forward. That night, in their new penthouse, overlooking the Detroit River, Amara fed the babies their bedtime bottles while Jiho cooked dinner. Actual home-cooked Korean food, something he'd insisted on learning properly now that they had a real kitchen. "This is surreal," she said, watching him move around the kitchen. "6 months ago, I was eating ramen in a studio apartment and trying to remember why I should bother living another day. Now I'm here, with you, with them, living a life I couldn't have imagined. Do you miss it? Your old life?" "God, no. My old life was empty. This is messy and complicated and sometimes terrifying, but it's real. It matters. You matter." He set down the spoon and crossed to her. "You've always mattered, Amara. You just needed to remember that." She leaned into his kiss, careful not to jostle the babies in her lap. When they broke apart, both children were staring at them with identical expressions of fascination. "They're judging us," Amara said. "Let them. We've earned this happiness." Later, after the babies were asleep and dinner was eaten and the dishes were done, they stood on the balcony watching the city lights. It had become their ritual, these quiet moments of peace between storms. "I talked to my mother today," Amara said, "told her about the adoption." "How did she take it?" "She cried, then she laughed, then she cried again. She wants to meet you, meet the babies. She's coming to visit next month." "And you told her what, exactly? About me?" "That you're a businessman, which is technically true, just not the full truth." "We'll have to tell her eventually. Maybe. Or maybe we just let her think you're a legitimate entrepreneur who happens to have a lot of tattoos and an unusual business model." "So we lie. We protect her. There's a difference." He was quiet for a moment. "My parents died when I was young. I never got to introduce them to me son, never got to show them the life I built. Part of me is grateful. They wouldn't have approved, but another part wishes they could see this, see us, see that I found something real in all the darkness. They'd be proud," Amara said firmly, "of the father you've become, of the leader you are, of the man who chooses love over power. I didn't choose. Love chose me. You chose me. We chose each other, and we'll keep choosing each other every day, no matter what comes." He pulled her close, and they stood like that for a long time, two broken people who'd found wholeness in each other, watching their city sleep and dreaming of futures they'd fought so hard to earn. We hope you've enjoyed this incredible journey with Amara and Jiho. If you've been following along, please hit that subscribe button and smash that like. We want to hear from you in the comments. What did you think of Amara's transformation? Are you team found family? And most importantly, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country below. Part 2 is coming up next, where we'll see how this story concludes. Don't go anywhere. The first few weeks of their new life settled into something almost resembling normalcy. Almost. Because normal people didn't have armed guards stationed outside their penthouse. Normal people didn't attend council meetings where life and death decisions were made with the casualness of discussing weather. And normal people definitely didn't have their 10-month-old babies attended by bodyguards trained in martial arts. But Amara was learning that normal was overrated. She'd enrolled in online nursing courses, determined to finish her degree. If she was going to be co-leading a criminal organization, she reasoned, she might as well have a legitimate career to fall back on. Plus, her medical skills had already saved lives multiple times. Might as well make them official. Jiho had thrown himself into restructuring the Hwarang. He was phasing out the more questionable operations, moving toward legitimate business ventures, cybersecurity consulting, corporate risk assessment, private investigation services, all using the Hwarang's extensive intelligence networks, but operating within legal boundaries, mostly. "We're going straight," he'd announced at a council meeting. "Or as straight as we can go, without completely dismantling everything. No more blackmail, no more extortion, no more hurting people for profit." "And what do we do with the people who can't go straight?" Kim Sang-woo had asked. The enforcers who only know violence, the operatives who've built lives around illegal activity, we retrain them, give them legitimate options, and if they can't adapt, we pension them out. Generous severance, new identities if needed, and a clean break. It was ambitious, maybe impossible, but Jiho was determined, and Amara found herself believing in his vision. They could transform the Hwarang into something better, something her father would have approved of, maybe. The babies were thriving. Suar was pulling herself up on furniture now, determined to walk before her first birthday. Daniel had developed an infectious laugh that made everyone smile. They were happy, healthy, loved, everything Amara had fought so hard to protect. But peace never lasted long in their world. The call came at 3 a.m., jarring them awake. Yoon's voice, tight with tension. "We have a problem. Mi-sun escaped custody. Killed 2 guards and disappeared. We think she's coming. For the children." Amara was on her feet instantly, running to the nursery. Both babies were sleeping peacefully, unaware of the danger. She scooped them both up, carriers and all, while Jiho grabbed weapons and made rapid-fire calls. "How long has she been gone?" Jiho demanded into the phone. 2 hours, and you're just telling us now. Get every available person to this address, and find her, Yoon. Find her before she finds us. They retreated to the panic room Jiho had insisted on installing, a reinforced steel box hidden behind a false wall, stocked with supplies for a week-long siege. Amara hated it, hated that her children needed a panic room, hated that their lives were still defined by violence despite all their efforts at reform. "She'll come for them," Jiho said, checking his weapons with practiced efficiency. "She knows the council will never accept her back. Her only leverage now is Suar and Daniel. She takes them, she can force us to give her what she wants." What does she want? The tattoos. Always the tattoos. The information encoded on my skin. It's worth billions. She'll never let it go. Then give it to her, decode it. Put it on a hard drive and hand it over, whatever it takes to keep the babies safe. He looked at her like she'd suggested burning down the world. "Amara, that information is the only thing keeping us alive. The moment Mi-sun has it, she doesn't need us anymore. We become liabilities. Then we destroy it. All of it. Burn the data, laser off the tattoos. Whatever it takes. Just end this." "I can't." "Why not?" "Because other people depend on that data. Whistleblowers we've promised to protect, abuse victims whose identities we guard, journalists with sources that would be killed if exposed. That information isn't just money, it's people's lives." Amara hadn't thought of that. She'd been so focused on the criminal aspects of the Hwarang that she'd forgotten they also did good. Real, necessary good. "So we're trapped," she said. "Can't give up the tattoos. Can't destroy them. Can't let Mi-sun take the babies. What's our play? We end her permanently. No more exile. No more mercy. She's proven she'll never stop. So we make sure she can't continue." "You mean kill her?" "I mean protect our family by any means necessary." Amara should have been horrified, should have argued for a peaceful solution. But she'd seen Mi-sun's eyes when she pointed a gun at the babies, had heard her casual dismissal of her own daughter's life. Some people couldn't be reasoned with. Some threats had to be eliminated. "Okay," she said. "Then let's eliminate her." They stayed in the panic room for 6 hours while Yoon coordinated a citywide manhunt. Every Hwarang member, every allied organization, every contact they'd accumulated over decades, all searching for one woman who'd proven herself a ghost. Finally, at 9 a.m., Yoon called back. "We found her. She's at the original safe house, the motel where Park was killed. She's alone, or appears to be. Could be a trap." "It's definitely a trap," Jiho said. "But we're going anyway. Keep the perimeter secure. No one in or out without my authorization. Boss, let me go instead. You stay with the family." "No. This ends with me. I brought Mi-sun into the Hwarang. I married her. I failed to see what she was. This is my responsibility. Then I'm coming with you, Amara said. Don't argue. You'll need backup, and I'm the only person you trust absolutely. So, let's go. They left the babies with 3 bodyguards in the panic room. It killed Amara to walk away from them, but she couldn't let Ji-ho face Misun alone. They were partners now, in everything. The drive to the motel was tense. Yoon drove, Ji-ho rode shotgun, and Amara sat in back, checking weapons she'd learned to use over the past months. A compact pistol, backup knife, body armor under her jacket. She'd transformed from delivery driver to soldier without quite realizing it. Whatever happens, Ji-ho said, without turning around, promise me you'll protect Suar and Daniel, even if I don't make it, even if you have to run and never look back. Promise me. Stop talking like that. Promise me, Amara. I promise. But you're going to make it. We both are. And then we're getting married because I'm not raising 2 Korean crime babies as a single mother. You hear me? We're doing this together or not at all. She saw his shoulders shake with silent laughter. Is that a proposal? It's a demand. Now focus on not dying so you can properly propose later. The motel looked abandoned in daylight. Yoon's people had established a perimeter 3 blocks out, but the immediate area was clear. Too clear. Amara's instincts screamed trap. They approached room 237, the same room where Misun had first ambushed them. Poetic, in a terrible way. Everything coming full circle. Ji-ho knocked. Misun, it's over. Come out peacefully and you'll get a fair trial. I promise you that much. The door opened. Misun stood there and she looked like a different person. Wild-eyed, dishevelled, a far cry from the elegant woman who'd once led council meetings. But the gun in her hand was steady. Fair trial? She laughed. In what world would I get a fair trial? I'm a woman who dared to challenge the patriarchy. I'm already convicted in their eyes. You're a murderer, Ji-ho said flatly. You killed loyal Hwarang members. Tried to kill your own daughter. You deserve what's coming. I deserve to lead. I'm smarter than you. More ruthless. More willing to do what's necessary to make the Hwarang powerful. But because I lack a Y chromosome, I'm treated like a usurper. You're treated like a criminal because you are one. Misun's eyes found Amara. And you. The great saviour. Did he tell you he's using you? That you're just a shield? The black woman who makes him look progressive while he maintains all the real power? He's told me everything, Amara replied calmly, including how you faked your death and abandoned your daughter. So save your manipulations. They won't work, won't they? Tell me, Amara, do you really think you can lead the Hwarang? Do you think those old men respect you? They tolerate you because Ji-ho demands it. The moment he's gone, they'll throw you out like garbage. Then, I guess Ji-ho better not go anywhere. We'll see about that. Misun raised the gun. I'm walking out of here with the babies. You're going to let me go, or I detonate the real bombs I've planted. Yes, real ones this time. I've had 3 months to plan this. 3 months to place explosives in every location you care about. The penthouse, the council headquarters, the safe houses, all wired and ready. You're bluffing again. Am I? She held up a phone. Want to test that theory? Want to bet your children's lives on it? Ji-ho's jaw clenched. What do you want? The decryption keys. All of them. Written down, verified and handed over. Then I take Suar, disappear, and you never hear from me again. No, Amara said before Ji-ho could respond. You're not taking those babies anywhere. Then they die, along with everyone else in those buildings. I've got nothing left to lose, Amara. Can you say the same? The standoff stretched, seconds feeling like hours. Then Ji-ho spoke, his voice eerily calm. I'll give you the keys, but not Suar. Just the information. You can disappear, start over, use that data to build whatever empire you want. But my daughter stays with me. She's my daughter too. You stopped being her mother the moment you tried to kill her. So take the keys or take nothing. But the answer on Su'a is no. Forever. Misun's finger tightened on the trigger. I could just shoot you both. Take the babies by force. You could try. Yoon's voice came from behind her. He'd somehow entered through the bathroom window, silent as smoke. But you'd be dead before you pulled the trigger. And those bombs. We found them. All of them. You're really not as clever as you think. For the first time, genuine fear crossed Misun's face. She spun toward Yoon, gun tracking him, and in that moment of distraction, Ji-ho moved. He crashed into her, sending them both to the floor, the gun discharged, the bullet going wild. And then they were struggling, rolling, fighting with the desperation of mortal enemies. Amara rushed forward, trying to get a clear shot, but they were too tangled. She saw the flash of Mi-sun's knife, saw blood bloom on Ji-ho's arm, and made a decision. She dropped the gun and grabbed a lamp from the nightstand. Heavy, solid, ceramic. She'd used one before, knew exactly how effective it could be. She swung hard, connecting with Mi-sun's temple. The woman went limp instantly, knife clattering from her fingers. Ji-ho rolled away, breathing hard, clutching his bleeding arm. Is she dead? Amara asked. Yoon checked her pulse. Unconscious, might have a concussion, but alive. Good. She stands trial. Answers for everything. No execution. No easy way out. She faces justice. They called in Yoon's team to secure Mi-sun, get her medical attention, and transport her to a facility where she couldn't escape again. A proper prison this time, with Hwarang guards who were loyal to Ji-ho watching her every second. In the SUV heading back to the penthouse, Amara finally let herself shake. The adrenaline was crashing, fear and relief and exhaustion hitting all at once. Ji-ho pulled her close with his good arm, his injured one wrapped in makeshift bandages. You saved me again, he said softly. How many times is that now? I've lost count. You can pay me back by staying alive. Deal. And Amara? About that proposal you demanded earlier. Not now. Ask me properly when we're not covered in blood and trauma. Fair enough. But the answer will be yes, right? She looked at him. This beautiful, damaged, determined man who'd stumbled into her life and changed everything. The answer is yes, has been yes since I carried you up those stairs. I just needed time to admit it. When they reached the penthouse, Su'a and Daniel were awake and crying, having sensed something was wrong. Amara scooped them both up, breathing in their baby smell, feeling her heart rate finally slow. We're okay, she whispered in Igbo, the language of comfort and safety. We're all okay. Ji-ho came up behind her, wrapping his arms around all three of them. We're more than okay. We're family. The next few weeks were a whirlwind. Mi-sun's trial was swift and decisive. With the mountain of evidence against her, even her expensive lawyers couldn't save her. Life in prison, no possibility of parole. She'd spend the rest of her days in a maximum security facility, paying for her crimes. Some of Ji-ho's supporters had wanted execution. Quick, clean, final, but he'd refused. Death is mercy, he'd said. Let her live with what she's done. Let her sit in a cell and think about the daughter she tried to kill. That's real justice. Amara agreed. Some might call it cruel, but she called it appropriate. With Mi-sun finally contained, the Hwarang began its true transformation. Ji-ho implemented sweeping changes, legitimate business fronts for every operation, anonymous tip lines for anyone who felt coerced or threatened, counselling services for members who wanted to leave the organisation, and most controversially, a complete ban on operations that harmed civilians. The old guard resisted. Tradition was sacred, they argued. The Hwarang had always operated in moral grey areas. Why change now? Because the world is changing. Amara had stood up in a council meeting and spoken with the authority she'd earned, and we can change with it or become obsolete. Your choice. But Ji-ho and I will be leading this organisation into the future. You can follow or step aside. The challenge was clear. Several council members chose to step aside, taking generous retirement packages. New members were appointed, younger, more progressive, more willing to evolve. Within 6 months, the Hwarang barely resembled its former self. They'd become the most effective private security and investigation firm in North America. They still used their intelligence networks, still traded in information, but everything they did now stayed within legal boundaries. Mostly. Amara completed her nursing degree online and was immediately offered a position at Detroit General Hospital. She negotiated part-time hours, so she could still manage her Hwarang responsibilities and spend time with the babies. It was exhausting, juggling 3 separate lives, but it felt right. She was using all of herself now, all her skills, all her passion, all her purpose. Jiho proposed properly 6 months after Misun's imprisonment. He took her to a fancy restaurant, bought her roses, got down on one knee, like a man who'd never threatened anyone at gunpoint. The ring was beautiful, a fusion of Korean and Nigerian design elements, symbolizing their blended life. Amara Okonkwo, he'd said, his voice shaking slightly. Will you marry me? Will you be my wife, my partner, my co-leader? Will you officially become mother to Su'ar and Daniel? Will you spend the rest of your life arguing with me and loving me and building this impossible dream we've created? She'd said yes before he finished the question. Yes to all of it. Yes to forever. They married 3 months later in a ceremony that blended Korean and Nigerian traditions. The council attended in formal hanbok. Amara's mother flew in from Lagos, elegant in traditional aso ebi, and Su'ar and Daniel toddled down the aisle as flower babies, scattering petals everywhere and making everyone laugh. It wasn't the life Amara had imagined for herself a year ago, but it was better, richer, fuller, more real than anything she could have dreamed. The babies were walking now, almost running. Su'ar was serious and determined, already showing leadership qualities at just over a year old. Daniel was gentle and laughing, quick to hug anyone who seemed sad. They were perfect opposites and perfect together. One evening, Amara found Jiho in the nursery, watching the twins sleep. His face was soft, with an emotion she'd learned to recognize, grateful wonder that they'd survived everything. "What are you thinking?" she asked, slipping her hand into his. "That I was dead, bleeding out in that loading dock, children in my arms, no hope of survival. And then you appeared. You, with your expired nursing degree, and your delivery app, and your father's voice in your head telling you to catch people when they fall. I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew I couldn't let you die."
"You did more than keep me alive. You gave me a reason to live. You gave all of us that." He turned to face her. "I've been thinking about something. The tattoos, the encryption. What about them? I want to start removing them, gradually, safely. Transfer the data to secure servers.
Then laser off the ink, return my body to myself." Amara felt her breath catch. "Jiho, those tattoos are part of who you are, part of your identity. They're part of who I was, but I'm different now. We're building something new, something that doesn't require me to be a walking database. And honestly, I'm tired of being valued for the information on my skin rather than the man underneath. I value the man underneath, always have. I know. That's why I want to do this. For us. For our future. For the possibility that someday Su'ar and Daniel won't have to explain why their father is covered in encrypted tattoos. Keep the neck ones, Amara said impulsively. They're beautiful, and they're part of your story, our story. The first thing I noticed about you, even while you were pointing a gun at me." He laughed. "Keep the neck tattoos. Remove the rest. I can live with that compromise." "Good. Because you're stuck with me now, tattoos or not. We're legally bound." Best trap I ever walked into. They stood there together, watching their children sleep, two broken people who'd somehow built a whole life. Outside, Detroit glittered in the darkness, a city that had witnessed their transformation from strangers to family. Amara thought of her father, wondered if he could see her now, hoped he understood the choices she'd made. The nursing degree had come, eventually. The life of service he'd wanted for her, just not in the way either of them expected. Don't let them fall, NYM, she whispered in Igbo, repeating his words like a prayer. Whatever happens, catch them. And she had. She'd caught Jiho when he fell, caught Su-Ah and Daniel, caught herself when she was drowning in grief and purposelessness. She'd caught them all and refused to let go. That was love. That was family. That was the life she'd fought so hard to build. 1 year later, Amara stood in the council chambers, holding an infant in her arms, not Su-Ah or Daniel, both of whom were toddling around causing chaos in the corner under Yoon's watchful eye. This was her daughter. Hers and Jiho's, 3 months old, with her mother's dark skin and her father's intense eyes. They'd named her Ada, the Igbo word for first daughter, paired with the Korean name Haewon. Ada Haewon Kang, a living symbol of everything their family represented: fusion, hope, the future. The council had gathered to witness her formal introduction. Another unprecedented moment in Hwarang history, a child of mixed race, born to the organization's leader and his black wife, being recognized as a legitimate heir alongside her adopted siblings. This is Ada, Jiho announced, his voice ringing with pride. My daughter, Amara's daughter, sister to Su-Ah and Daniel, and according to our new succession rules, an equal heir to Hwarang leadership. Kim Sang-woo stood and bowed. Welcome, Ada Haewon. May you grow strong and wise. May you lead with honor. May you continue the revolution your parents started. One by one, the council members bowed. Some still looked uncomfortable with the changes, with the mixed-race heir, with the future barreling toward them, but they bowed. That was progress. After the ceremony, Amara's mother pulled her aside. She'd moved back to Detroit 6 months ago, unable to stay away from her grandchildren. Your father would be so proud, she said, tears in her eyes, of all of this, of who you've become. I'm married to a reformed criminal, Mama. I don't think that's what he imagined. No, he imagined you would be a healer, someone who saves lives. And look at you. She gestured around at the council chamber, at Jiho playing with the children, at the organization that had transformed itself. You saved one life and ended up saving dozens, maybe hundreds. You've healed more than bodies, Ada M. You've healed souls. It was the first time her mother had called her Ada, the name they'd given the baby, the name that meant first daughter, most precious, most loved. Thank you, Amara whispered, for understanding, for accepting this. Understanding? Accepting? Her mother laughed. My daughter is queen of a Korean crime syndicate. My grandchildren are international heirs to $1 billion operation. My son-in-law has encrypted tattoos and kills people who threaten his family. What's there to accept? This is wonderful. Mama, you're supposed to be scandalized. Scandalized? Please, I grew up in Nigeria during military coups. I've seen real criminals. Your husband is trying to reform his organization, provide for his family, protect the innocent. That's not criminal. That's leadership. You're taking this surprisingly well, because I see how happy you are, how purposeful. You were dying inside after your father passed, Ada M. Now you're alive. You're thriving. You found your place. That's all any mother wants for her child. Amara hugged her mother tightly, careful not to crush baby Ada between them. I love you. Thank you for not giving up on me. Impossible. You're my daughter. I never give up. That night, after the babies were all asleep and the bodyguards were stationed and the world was as safe as they could make it, Amara and Ji-ho collapsed onto their bed. 3 kids, Ji-ho said wonderingly. We have 3 children. How did this happen? Biology, mostly, with some poor decision-making mixed in. Best poor decisions I ever made. He pulled her close, mindful of her still healing body from childbirth. Amara, I need to tell you something. The council wants to make you official co-leader, not just symbolic, real authority, equal voting power. I already have that, on paper. They want to make it ceremonial, traditional Korean ceremony, full recognition. You'd be the first woman to officially lead any branch of the Hwarang in its entire history. And you're okay with that? Sharing power completely. I'm more than okay with it. I'm insisting on it. You've earned this, Amara. You've transformed this organization just as much as I have. More even. They respect you, fear you a little, trust you completely. That's real leadership. She thought about it. A year ago, she'd been nobody. Now she was being offered equal leadership of a multinational organization. It was absurd, impossible, perfect. Okay, she said. Let's do it. Let's burn down every last tradition that says I can't. Let's show them all what real change looks like. That's my queen, your partner, your equal, your pain in the arse who's going to spend the next 50 years arguing with you about everything. Can't wait. They fell asleep like that, tangled together. 3 baby monitors are softly glowing on the nightstand. Outside, their bodyguards kept watch. In the next room, their children dreamed. And somewhere in the city, the Hwarang continued its transformation into something new. 6 months later, Amara stood in front of the full Hwarang assembly. Not just the council, but representatives from every branch, every cell, every operation across North America. Hundreds of people gathered to witness her official coronation as co-leader. She wore traditional Korean hanbok in rich purple and gold, paired with Nigerian coral beads her mother had worn at her own wedding. Her hair was styled in intricate braids, her makeup flawless. She looked like royalty, felt like an imposter. But then she saw Ji-ho standing at the front of the assembly, Sua on his hip and Daniel holding his hand. Her family, her reason for all of this. She walked forward, head high, remembering every person she'd saved, every decision she'd made, every time she'd chosen courage over fear. The ceremony was in Korean, but translators provided running English commentary, ancient words, ancient traditions, being adapted to include a black woman from Detroit who'd stumbled into this world by accident. When they placed the ceremonial crown on her head, a hush fell over the assembly. This was the moment, the point of no return. The Hwarang fully accepting that their future looked different from their past. Then Kim Sang-woo began to clap, slow at first, then building. Others joined. Soon the entire assembly was applauding, and Amara felt tears streaming down her face. She was queen. Actually, officially ceremonially queen of the Hwarang. What the hell was her life? In her acceptance speech, Amara spoke in both English and the little Korean she'd learned over the past year. I'm not Korean, she began. I don't have Hwarang blood. I don't come from your traditions. But I've learned your ways. I've earned your trust. And I promise you this, I will lead with honor. I will protect the innocent. I will transform this organization into something that serves rather than dominates, and I will never forget that I stand here because one man fell at my feet and asked for help, and I chose to catch him. She looked at Ji-ho. We chose each other, and we'll keep choosing each other, and choosing this organization and choosing honor every single day. That's my promise. That's our promise. The old Hwarang is dead. Long live the new Hwarang. The assembly erupted. Some were cheering, some were weeping, some were probably horrified but hiding it well. But they were all united now, all committed to this strange new future. After the ceremony, during the reception, Yoon pulled Amara aside. I have news. Misun died in prison. Heart attack. She was only 42, but the stress, the anger, it ate her alive. Amara felt nothing, no satisfaction, no grief, just a strange emptiness. How do I tell Sue-ah? When she's older, how do I tell her that her biological mother tried to kill her? You tell her the truth, that her mother was sick, that mental illness and greed destroyed her, but that she had two parents who loved her enough to protect her. You and Ji-ho, that's what matters. I'm not her real mother. You're the mother who stays, who feeds her and changes her and rocks her when she's sick. You're the mother who will teach her to be strong. Biology is just genetics. Love is what makes family. He was right. Amara had learned that lesson over and over. Family wasn't blood, it was choice, commitment, showing up every day even when it was hard. That night, she held all three children close, reading them stories in English and Igbo, and halting Korean. They were her babies, all of them. It didn't matter that Sue-ah and Daniel had come to her through trauma, didn't matter that Ada was biologically hers. They were all hers, all theirs, all family. Mama, Sue-ah said in her toddler voice, love you. And Amara's heart broke open with joy, because she was Mama. Not Amara, not the Queen, not the co-leader, just Mama. Love you too, baby girl. Love all of you, forever. 2 years later, the Hwarang barely resembled its former self. They'd transitioned almost completely to legitimate operations, cybersecurity, private investigation, corporate risk assessment, everything legal, everything transparent. Some of the old guard had left, unable to adapt, but new blood had flooded in. Young people excited by the organization's transformation, people who wanted to use their intelligence skills for good rather than profit. Amara had finished her nursing degree and was working part-time at Detroit General while managing her Hwarang duties. She'd specialized in emergency medicine, the kind of high-stakes, life-or-death work that suited her personality. Ji-ho had gotten most of his tattoos removed, just as he'd promised. Only the neck pieces remained, beautiful and striking, a reminder of where they'd come from. He'd also started a foundation to help people escape organized crime, providing resources, protection, new identities for anyone trying to go straight. The children were thriving. Sue-ah was 4 now, serious and determined, and already showing leadership qualities that made the council nervous in the best way. Daniel was gentle and artistic, constantly drawing pictures of their family. And Ada was 2, fearless and chaotic and absolutely convinced she ruled the world. They were planning baby number 4, a planned one this time, not born of trauma and survival, just a baby made of love and hope and the certainty that their family could always grow. One evening, Amara found Ji-ho on their balcony, looking out over Detroit. It had become their spot, their place to process everything. What are you thinking? She asked, sliding her arms around his waist. That 1.5 years ago, I was dead. Or should have been, bleeding out in a loading dock with no hope. And now I have everything. A wife I adore, 3 children I'd die for, an organization that's actually helping people, a future I never thought I'd see. He turned to face her. You saved my life, Amara. In every way a person can be saved. You saved mine too. I was drowning in grief and guilt. You gave me purpose, gave me a family, gave me a reason to wake up every morning. We saved each other. Yeah, we did. They stood there together, watching their city, the place where they'd met, fought, loved, built their impossible life. Detroit had witnessed their transformation from strangers to partners to legends in their own strange way. Do you ever miss it? Ji-ho asked. Your old life, before all this chaos. Amara thought about it, honestly. The cramped apartment, the delivery routes, the endless, grinding loneliness. Not even a little bit. That woman was lost. This woman knows exactly where she belongs. And where's that? Here. With you. with our babies, leading an organization that's trying to be better. It's messy and complicated and sometimes still dangerous, but it's real. It's ours, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. Not even for a normal life. White picket fence, 9-to-5 job, no assassination attempts. Especially not that. Normal is overrated. I'd rather have extraordinary and terrifying. He laughed and pulled her close. You're extraordinary and terrifying. It's what I love about you. Sweet talker, save it for when you want something. I do want something. Want you. Want this life. Want forever. You already have forever. You married me, remember? You're stuck. Best trap I ever walked into. From inside the penthouse, they heard Ada crying, then Sua's voice trying to soothe her, Daniel's laughter joining in, the sounds of their family, chaotic and beautiful and real. We should go help, Amara said. In a minute. Let me just hold you a little longer. Remember this moment. Remember that we made it. Against all odds, we survived and built something beautiful. So they stood there, two people who'd found each other in darkness and created light. A former delivery driver and a reformed crime boss, a Nigerian-American nurse, and a tattooed Korean syndicate leader. Impossible partners who'd done the impossible, built a family from trauma, created love from survival, transformed violence into peace. Well, mostly peace. They still had enemies, still had people who resented the changes, still had nights when danger came calling, but they had each other, had their children, had their purpose, and that was enough, more than enough. That was everything. Inside, Ada's crying turned to giggles as Sua tickled her. Daniel started singing a Korean lullaby Jiho had taught him, mixing in English words he'd learned from Amara. Their family. Their impossible, beautiful, chaotic family. Okay, Amara said, now we can go help. They walked inside together, hand in hand, ready to referee toddler disputes and read bedtime stories and do all the normal things normal families did. Except they weren't normal. Would never be normal. And Amara wouldn't have it any other way. Years from now, when Sua asked about how her parents met, Amara would tell her the truth about the loading dock and the gun and the babies crying in the rain, about choosing courage over fear, about catching someone when they fell and refusing to let go, about love that was born in violence but grew into peace, about family that was chosen rather than given, about the life they'd built together, impossible and beautiful and real. That was their story. That was their truth. And it was enough. Thank you so much for staying with us through this incredible journey. If you made it to the end, you're part of something special. Please hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and drop a comment telling us what you thought. Did Amara and Jiho's story move you? What was your favourite moment? And where in the world are you watching from? We create stories like this every week. Tales of love and survival, of ordinary people thrust into extraordinary circumstances. This is just the beginning. There are more stories coming, more adventures, more journeys that will keep you on the edge of your seat. From all of us, thank you for being here. Thank you for investing your time in Amara and Jiho's story. Thank you for believing that love can survive anything, that families can be built from chaos, and that redemption is always possible. Until next time, keep catching the people who fall. Keep choosing courage. Keep building your own impossible, beautiful life. And this is just the beginning.